previous video we discussed up to storage services, which is the last one we just discussed is elastic file system. Or this video we're going to discuss a few more services, right? This is another important service in AWS, database services, right? We're going to discuss database services, and the first one is relational database services, RDS, right? So RDS in a relational database services, the deployment model is a multi availability zone, right? So RDS, let's go back. So the databases, right? This is Aurora and RDS. The RDS, if I can create, so you can select a different sort of RDS, right? This is MySQL compatible one, right? So this one is the engine type Aurora. Aurora PostgreSQL compatible, and then you got a MySQL here, and then PostgreSQL, and then MariaDB, and then you got a Oracle, and then you got a Microsoft SQL Server, and then you got a IBM DB2, right? So you got a lot of so many options, right? See that you have so many options. So availability and durability, multi-availability zone development, info. You can check info, select and create replica in a different zone to have. Mason RTS to maintain a synchronous standby replica in a different availability zone than the DB instance. Amazon RDS will automatically fail over to standby in case of a planned or unplanned outage of the primary. So we're going to discuss those things later about each service. But so what I want to you to understand, these are the RDS database types availability. And let's have a look what it says, right? And then we'll discuss more further the database services, because this part is really important. I think deployment model is multi-availability zone. This is optional. So single availability zone deployment runs in one availability zone, not fault tolerant. So you can put in one single availability zone, and there's no fault tolerant for that. And then you can apply in a multi-availability zone deployment. Synchronous standby replica in another availability zone. That means if one of the availability zone goes down, the replica automatically in another availability zone automatically fail over to as a primary instance. And it says a read replica can be in different availability zones or regions. So you can create a read replica so to remove the workload. Read replica will use for only reading. Primary database is the only one, so we can write. So read replica, you can create a read replica in a different availability zone or regions, right? So need to understand these three important aspects in the database. So the second one is a DynamoDB, right? DynamoDB, the deployment model is a regional, multi-availability zone by default. So DynamoDB will be deployed into a region. Let's say, what is the region? North Virginia, but tables are replicated across more than 3 availability zones in the region. So as it says, so this one is automatically replicated into a three availability zone in the region, so it's automatically as a high available, right? And DynamoDB got the tables called global tables. Global tables allow multi-region replication. It's an active instance if you select. So global tables can allow multi-region replication. So its global tables will be replicated into a different region, right? And then the other one is Aurora DB. The deployment model also in a regional but multi availability zone by default. So 6 copies for data across 3 availabilities on high durability. So this one, Aurora, when you are deploying in a multiple, regional region, so 6 copies of data across 3 availability zone for high durability. So it will replicate into a 3 availability zone by default, right? And also, if you got another region, Aurora Global Databases, got something called Global Databases similar to DynamoDB. So that will um, replicate cross-region replication across cross-region, right? So let's have a quick look at these ones, right? This is a Mason relational database service, RDS, right? So regions, availability zones, and local zones. Amazon cloud computing resources are hosted in a multiple location worldwide, right? Blah blah blah, right? Okay, so what is it saying? Let's have a look. So this is like a region availability zone. So this is local zones are just an extension of a region, little bit closer to you here. If you are in here somewhere, it will be so. Amazon RDP instance normally this is deployed in a one uh, availability zone, right? So regions, right? So this is what it's telling. Following table shows that AWS regions where Amazon RDS is currently available and the endpoint for each region. So in this one, under free documentation, Amazon RDS user guide. So you can see how they are being applied, right? Availability zones, right? Um, so even it explains sort of things. Local zone is extension of AWS region that geographically close to your users. You can extend any VPC from the parent AWS region to into local zones, right? So it's closer to local zone. If your region is closer to local zone, so you can extend, right? Create a new subnet, assign it to a AWS local zone, right? When you create a subnet in a local zone, your VPC is extended to that local zone. So subnet in that local zone operates the same as your subnets in your VPC, right? When you create a DB instance, you can choose subnet in a local zone. Local zones have their own connection to the internet and support AWS Direct Connect. So putting a local zone, you can do a very low latency communication, right? So note, a local zone can't include it in multi AZ deployment. So you can't do uh, multi availability zone deployment. If you put into a local zone, that breaks that rule, right? So what it is says, so RDS can be applied to one availability zone. Multi-deployment you can do with the read replicas, right? And the DynamoDB, automatically these ones are very reliable with more than 3 availability zone, both of them, DynamoDB and Aurora, right? 6 copies in data in here. tables are replicated to got three availability zones. Right. All right. I believe uh, we'll discuss the next services in next video. Until then, thank you very much.